My own son looked me in the eyes and said, "You have no meaning in this house anymore." That sentence didn't just break me, it killed something inside me. But I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I stayed silent, and that silence became the most powerful thing I ever used against him. If you've ever been disrespected by the very people you sacrificed everything for, this story will stay with you. Hit subscribe, tap like, and share your thoughts below, because what happens next is justice served in the coldest way possible. My name is David. I'm 64 years old. I spent my entire life working as an electrician, long nights, missed birthdays, double shifts, all so my family never had to struggle like I did. My wife passed away 5 years ago. Since then, it's just been me and my son, Michael. At least, that's what I thought. In those early years after my wife's death, Michael was my reason to wake up. He was 28 then, young, full of dreams, and I wanted to be there for him every step of the way. I gave him everything I could. Paid for his degree, helped him buy his first car, even gave him the down payment for his new house. It was the house we were living in together. But as time passed, I began to feel like a stranger in my own home. He got married. At first, I was happy. She seemed kind, polite, respectful. But after a few months, little things started changing. Dinner plates stopped being made for me. Conversations stopped including me. And laughter started dying the moment I walked into the room. At first, I told myself it was just adjustment. But one night, I overheard something that still echoes in my head. "He's old, Michael. You can't keep babying him forever. He's just taking up space." It was his wife talking. And instead of defending me, my son just stayed quiet. A few weeks later, it got worse. I came home early from the grocery store, carrying a few things I bought for them, their favorite snacks, some fruits. But when I walked in, they were sitting at the table, and the air felt heavy. Michael didn't even look up when I entered. His wife just crossed her arms, and I knew something was coming. "Dad," he said, finally looking at me, "we've been talking. We think it's time you considered other living arrangements." I froze. I didn't understand. He continued, "You've done enough for us, but you have no meaning in this house anymore." That sentence. Those words. They shattered me more than anything I had ever heard. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just nodded, placed the grocery bag on the counter, and walked out to my room. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, staring at the wall. I could still hear my wife's voice in my head, "Promise me you'll always take care of him." And I had. I had given that boy everything. And now, I was being discarded like an old piece of furniture. The next morning, I packed a small bag. My hands trembled as I folded each shirt, remembering the days I used to fold his little clothes when he was a boy. When he was 5, he once cried because his toy car broke. I stayed up all night fixing it. Now, he couldn't care less if I lived or died. I left quietly. Didn't even tell them goodbye. For the next few weeks, I stayed in a small motel near town. Ate cheap meals. Sat by the window and watched people walking by. But something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to spend my remaining years as a forgotten man. And I wasn't going to let my son and his greedy wife enjoy the life I had built, not after they threw me away like garbage. That's when the plan began forming. You see, the house we were living in, the one they loved so much, was still under my name. I had planned to transfer it to Michael after my retirement officially ended in 2 years. He didn't know that. I called my lawyer, an old friend named Peter. I told him everything. He went silent for a moment, then said, "David, you've been too kind. Let's fix that." Together, we made a plan. Within 2 weeks, I sold the house. Yes, the house my son and his wife were living in. They didn't know until the new owners arrived with a moving truck and a legal notice. I'll never forget that phone call. "Dad, what did you do?" "I sold my house, Michael," I said calmly. "The one you said I had no meaning in." He screamed. Cursed. Called me heartless. But I didn't raise my voice. I just listened to him break down like I had that night at the dinner table. For the first time in years, I felt peace. They had 30 days to move out. His wife's family refused to take them in. Michael lost his job a few weeks later due to stress and constant absences. He called me again, this time, his voice softer. "Dad, I'm sorry. We were stupid. Please, just let us stay until we figure things out." I paused. Every part of me wanted to forgive him. That fatherly instinct never really dies. But then I remembered that night. "You have no meaning in this house anymore. You'll figure it out," I said quietly. Just like I did. Then I hung up. That night, I slept better than I had in years. I used the money from selling the house to buy a small cottage near the lake, quiet, peaceful, surrounded by trees. I started fishing again. Reading. Sometimes I'd sit on the porch, watch the sunset, and think of my wife. I think she'd understand. She always said people show their true hearts when they think you have nothing left to give. A few months later, Michael showed up at my door. He looked thinner, older. His eyes were red. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter. A real apology. Handwritten. He said losing the house was the best thing that happened to him, that it made him realize how cruel he'd been. He wanted to start over. I didn't say yes right away. But I invited him to sit. We talked until midnight. Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain, but it lets you breathe again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt that maybe, just maybe, I had meaning again. Sometimes silence speaks louder than shouting ever could. I didn't fight my son that day. I let him show me who he truly was. And when I finally acted, I didn't do it out of hate. I did it to remind him that love should never be taken for granted. If you ever feel unseen or unappreciated, remember. Your silence has power. And sometimes, walking away is the loudest revenge of all. If this story touched you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more stories where karma doesn't whisper, it roars. And tell me in the comments, would you have forgiven him?